prototype that you build now, the prototype of your idea, is the connecting point to create feedback from testers, which you are supposed to do within the next days, right after this day. So I want to give you an overview on what kinds of prototypes we have, and this will be on your board as well. Everybody has these resources. You might have noticed this if you always zoom out a little bit, and on here in the middle we are usually working, and then on the right you see there are like some method descriptions. I want to show you some. So one of them is just building a storyboard, thinking about how will the user actually interact with our idea, and then describing what is the context of the person, then describing, okay, how does he or she get in contact with our idea? How does he or she actually get value from our idea? And, language is kind of a tough codification, difficult codification, especially if you don't speak the same language, and pictures speak to people much easier. Presenting something by pictures makes it much clearer to people what is meant, and potentially also there's room for interpretation for them, But if you would send them a text or something, and then they read through it, and it's not very tangible, not very concrete. So basically building a storyboard of your idea is a very, very simple way to do this. You can do so in just doing it on your mural board, or another option is also, if you feel comfortable to just draw something on a piece of paper, just draw it very nicely on a piece of paper, take a picture of it, drop it on mural. Easy, right? So next thing, we can think about really critical function prototypes. What is a critical function prototype? When you prototype, you don't necessarily want to prototype everything that your idea has, but you want to prototype the most important part of it, the part of the feature or function that you say, if this is not valuable to the user, then we can leave this idea. And it's important to identify this. Gordon was already saying so, and I want to just direct your attention to it again. Think about what is really the value pool that your idea is creating, right? Why would the user use your solution? Really think about what's the value that the user gets out of here. And then you can also just like take a very small piece and then test this. And that's one thing that you can do. Another thing, wireframes. Has anybody built wireframes so far? Maybe hands up. Please, anybody? Hands up, hands up.
Yep.
Yeah, Lorenzo, great. Sylvester has already built some wireframes. Okay. Tobias as well. Great. Okay, perfect. So we already have some people who have built wireframes. Wireframes are basically a simplification of building an app. What you do is you just build the front end of an app. So it is like, imagine it to be PowerPoint, and yet then you make it look like it's the screen of your phone. Yeah, it's quite easy to just like have it look like this. For example, you can just take screenshots of your phone, upload it on Mural, easy, and then you just drop some other things on it. Here, when you go a little bit more in depth, you see, okay, you can just use with these work with these blocks, but you might think, okay, there's nothing written in there, but you can write something in there, and you just do it like this here, because we prepared so many design resources for you here. So you can see you have, for making a storyboard, for example, you have all these characters here. Then you have also some cars and transportation things. You have different signs, callouts. You have buildings, etc. You even have like settings of rooms, etc. So you can build all these things. This is for the storyboard, right? So now let's go to the wireframes. Wireframes, here you have a large selection of different icons. So here, going to this one, you can just like see, okay, this is a wireframe, all right? This is just a phone, it's empty so far. So let's take something, we can just drop it on here. We do it like this, then we maybe take the button down here. That's a good thing. Then we can do it just like, oh, boom. We just change it and we make it a little bit different. So we need these buttons, right? Very easy, bam. And then you add some text to it. You might want to just drop a picture in there, and you have something that at least looks like a screen. You know, it looks like a screen, and this is something you can then show to your user, and it's for them very easy to understand. And potentially you can also even create something that you can interact with. And talking about that, you know, here you have some examples. You can also make this for a website, right? You can do it here, Mural. You can do it in PowerPoint. Just kind of take a frame for this like web page or like a browser window, and then you can write anything in there. Then here you see an example of how you can actually make it look like when you build a wireframe. And this is quite easy. You know, it's just a visualization of a certain flow of different screens. This is how all of your apps that you have on your phone started. You know, they just made a first visualization like this. And this is very easy for people to actually have an interaction. Then we have another thing. You want to be a little bit more conceptual. You can make a service blueprint. So you see, like you write about the user actions here, then you define the touch points, service provider actions, backstage action, etc. It's basically also a larger or a more refined explanation of what is happening with your idea when the user gets in touch with it. I think this is something, it's nice to have it like this, but you know, it doesn't allow so much interaction. So you might want to have something else. Another thing, you can do video prototyping. Yeah, so you can have just like basically, you can also just take some pictures, or you can make a small video. If you want to do something like that, check out GoPro. They have a really, really cool app for that. There's a GoPro app that you can just like take pictures and then make it into a movie. Super easy. Other tools are also there that you can check out. Then minimal viable product, not going to talk about that. Tools for digital prototyping. So I was talking about like making wireframes, but you can make wireframes also come to life. And this is when you actually look at these tools here. For example, Axure, Balsamic, Marvel. I will just highlight for you here Marvel, because I think this is a very easy tool to make a wireframe. What you do is you take different screens and you can actually connect them. So in the sense of what we saw here, I would have these screens and I can say, if I press on this, it will go to this screen. If I press on this, it will go to this screen. And this is something you can do in Marvel, and it is really, really easy, you know, just for you to know here. So these are the things that we have for prototyping. Some questions about tools and prototyping. Anybody? Brian, Tobias? No, that's still the legacy hand from wireframes, I suppose.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. Any questions about prototyping? Anybody thinks I should have a YouTube channel on prototyping, explaining prototyping tools?
I think you should.
Most definitely.
Okay, okay, good. I'll think about it.
Invite us. We'll be guests on your YouTube channel.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So Kojo was just mentioning to have a link to Marvel. Yes, for sure. Let me quickly search for it. There's something called Marvel app. You can sign up for free. You can have, I think, 2 or 3 things for free. 2 or 3 prototypes. Here, chat. Boom. Let me give it for you. 1 free project. Thank you, Petya. Only. Yes, sad, very sad, but for now it will be enough to have 1. So there you have the link in the chat to the Marvel app. Easy to use, very cool. I want to touch upon one more topic. When you go into testing, you know, I might highlight this again, but it's important to really understand who's doing what, right? First of all, testing is not selling. Testing is giving your little darling, your prototype, to the user and saying, please have a look at it and tell me what you think about it. It's not like, hey, look at this great thing and it's amazing, and you know, you should definitely like it because it can do this, that, and it's amazing and you like it, right? So no, that's not what we want to do in prototyping or in testing. In testing, we want to give it and we want to generate feedback from the people, take it for us, and see what can we improve on our prototype, right? Our goal is to get the feedback from the user to create a better product, not to make us feel better or something. We want to create the greatest product that there is for solving NCDs that people are actually adopting, that people are actually using. So when you go into a testing, be a guide. Don't be a salesperson. Be a guide. You say, this is what we have, this is the context. Thanks for being here, for doing this test. And then you can give it to them and, you let them interact with it. When they have questions, then let them ask. If somebody asks, what happens if I press on here? Well, you should not say this and that happens, but you should ask, what do you think should happen? Because we want to get the motivations and understand the user here. And there should be one person who's the guide at least, and then you should have another person, the second person, who should be actually the person who's documenting your findings. So one person can really focus on guiding the test person or the interviewee through the prototype. The other one is documenting it. So now you might think, oh, yeah, sure, I've done this in an analog world, but be aware, as I just shared my screen, you can also do that when you do your testing. So you basically just transport the whole testing into a digital realm. You share your screen. You say, look, we have this amazing. No, not amazing. Look, we have this idea. This is a context. We want to solve something for NCD, for the people who are affected with NCDs. And this is actually a dietitian app. You can just press on it. And when you press on it, you get here. And then you can just let them go through it and say, so what do you see here? What do you know? What is the things that you think, that would happen if you press on this or that? You just try to make it conversation. And then it's best to wrap up a testing with, if I'm right, if I understood right, what you're saying is. So this is basically paraphrasing and reassuring that you have the right understanding of what the people said, because be aware, it is just like that we look at the world with a bias, right? And it's very, very difficult to free us from this bias and be objective. So always check yourself. Always check back if you understood the right thing from the person that you're testing with. All right. So with this being said, I think we can go back to our sub-challenges and we can go into prototyping. Handing over to our Captain Gordon.
All right. Are there any questions at all before we break into breakout rooms?
Maybe one question about the depths of this analysis and prototyping. How deep do you want to go? Is it mainly the front end and only the basic functionalities? I guess because it can take quite a long time to module all of these things if you're not so much in the knowledge of Marvel or what kind of other apps you use.
Yeah. When I learned about prototyping, the first 2 words or phrases I learned was that you should focus on what the solution looks like and what it feels like, right? So when we focus on what it looks like, you don't really need to have a lot of depth. You can draw with your hand. You can put those little stickies together. You're not trying to build functionality so much. You can show how it works with steps, the storyboard. But your real goal is to be able to have the person you're testing with know what it looks like and what it could feel like. Mm-hmm. And I know there are David H. here is a human computer interactions expert and can maybe chime in as well. David, I don't know if your mic is hot.
Yeah, definitely. So actually with prototyping within sort of this context, we actually have, 3 different types of what we call fidelity, which is, if you will, complexity of the prototype. The base, the first is what we call that, kind of your low level prototype. And that's what Gordon was describing. It could be just a drawing on the paper. It could be a cutout on paper. It basically, the idea is to convey, what it's supposed to be doing, and also the feel, without having, without it being, if you will, overly designed. Now you can come to a more sort of a medium type prototype where, fidelity prototype, where you add a little bit of color. But typically when you get to that level, and particularly when you're testing, you're probably testing certain features, particular features of your solution, right? So in the beginning with the low fidelity prototype, you could be just, trying out the idea, right? If you have an app that does XYZ and you have a storyboard or something like that that maps it out, the person can give you feedback on that. With medium, you add a little bit of color, maybe you focus on one particular feature. And then you can also move on to sort of high fidelity prototypes where it's looking a lot more like the finished product. All of these have different, pros and cons. One of the issues with a super sort of high fidelity one, super designed one, is that people think it's the real thing, right? So when they start interacting with it, they have certain expectations, right? And so when those expectations are not met because you've not built the real thing, it can distort the feedback you get. And then with the low fidelity one, depending on how you do it, people may not be able to really grasp exactly what you have in mind. And so the feedback may be a bit stunted, but they may not know, what to say because there's not much that they're looking at. And so you have to be a little bit more intentional with the type of questions you ask and how you probe with it. I think for what I tend to like to do is obviously start with the low fidelity. It's the quickest way to kind of get thoughts, ideas down, storyboard, wireframes like they've shown that you draw out, and you can easily put that in front of people and start getting feedback. And then as you get feedback, you can iterate and increase the fidelity of the prototype to use. So maybe I just stop there and see if there are any specific questions that we can answer for that.
For me, it's fine. Thank you. Makes totally sense. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, David. That was quite illustrative. Thank you. Looks like everybody is ready and want to get into it. All right. Going once. Any other questions? Going twice. Gone. Anything from Jonas or the LOT team? Jonas has a thumbs up. You can see Eric or his thumb.
From the LOT team as well.
I see his thumb as well. All right. So 2 thumbs. Any more thumbs? I think we're good. Derry. Oh, yeah, Petia has 2 thumbs. Derry, are we ready?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Yesterday we had 0 Zoom challenges. When Derry opened the gates, there was a flood. Please, let's repeat that. Have a great session prototyping.